Today on the Rise of the Challenge podcast.
I competed as a senior in kayaking for maybe 2 years, so like 18 to 20. But in those 2 years, it's kind of like you're trying to sort your life out, aren't you, at 18 and 20? Like, you finish school, you go into university and things like that. You're like, right, I need to get my life together and decide what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And I just went through a couple of years where I just limboed. I was kayaking still, but then I was like, well, I need to earn more money.
Welcome to the Rise to the Challenge podcast. Joining me today, he's a former Great Britain athlete, health and fitness coach, and entrepreneur. It's Brandon Hepburn. How are you doing today, Brandon?
Good, man. Thank you for having me. I know that we've juggled some times around, so we're finally here.
We are so excited to have you on the show to talk about your Rise to the Challenge. What we like to do with all of our guests is go right to the beginning. Talk about where you're from and what you like doing growing up.
How far back do you want to go?
Like a young Brandon.
Okay. So I guess kind of like I grew up like up until I was like a teenager, pretty much. I grew up farm life in the UK. So like Oxfordshire, it's kind of just out the outskirts of London. But yeah, I literally just grew up in a really small town kind of boy. Used to ride horses. My parents were big into the horse world, breeding dogs, all that sort of stuff. So proper farm life sort of thing. And yeah, like I just had a great upbringing. I think it's one of those upbringings where your family just say, just go out and come back at sunset sort of thing. So it was good. So I just had a proper country upbringing. Same very much going into kind of secondary school or high school for you guys. So kind of going into high school years, wasn't really a big kind of high school, still kind of country town vibe. And then probably when I was like between that transition, like 9 years old, maybe a little bit before going into 12, my parents split up. And then my mum actually moved kind of a little bit, not too far, but a little bit further away. And she moved close to the river, and which was awesome. So she was like, I'm going to get some boats so we can go on the water. And I was like, yeah, this is epic. Like thinking like my mom's going to come home with jet skis. Turns out she came back with like $100 kayak, and I was like, okay, this is really shit. And it just turned out the guy literally like a few doors down used to be a good kayaker, and he used to kind of do stuff for Great Britain and things like that. And he was like, hey, I'll teach you. And honestly, ever since there, like I started kayaking. In the first year, I made like a reserve athlete for Great Britain. I failed school because of it, because I was traveling a lot. And just because I was the worst dyslexic in the world, just really struggled to read and write. And definitely something that I think has affected me more so into later life. I definitely think that for a long time, I just thought I was dumb and stupid. And that's definitely had a big effect on kind of confidence up until like early 20s, to be honest. But yeah, man, that's kind of it really. And then I traveled the world kayaking, really.
You talked about growing up in the farm life. Was that kind of your exposure to enjoying being outdoors? With a lot of people that see you nowadays with things you post, you love the outdoors. Was that kind of the beginning of really enjoying being outside, where it kind of transitioned into kayaking, where you are outside doing that also?
Yeah, 100%, man. Like, I definitely struggle to like, even if I like, I don't know if yourself, like if I have to sit at a desk now and like work, I'm like, I can do literally like an hour and then I have to change location or something like that. So like I literally work out of coffee shops most of the time just because it's more convenient and it's just better for my brain in a sense. But yeah, I've always enjoyed I've always had that attachment to nature for sure. And kayaking definitely brought that out, where you just saw places that you'd never be able to experience in the world. Like you can't be a tourist and go there. Like you're in the middle of nowhere on a river. Like for us, that was like in the middle of Uganda, for example, and things like that. So like places you just don't get to experience.
See, I enjoy kayaking. Never would think about being competitive with it. I'm too like, I'm more looking at like the landscape or like the nature, and I'm like, ooh, that's a nice waterfall. Ooh, I like being on the water. I'm not thinking, okay, I got to cross this finish line in like 5 seconds. But was you always an athlete? You talked about being on the farm when school was difficult. Was sports something that you found a passion for, or kayaking kind of came at a different time that you didn't expect?
Yeah, I think growing up, like I don't think I was actually like good at sport in a sense. like nothing. There was a transition where I was playing rugby and I was kind of getting into kayaking. So I kind of had to pick one because I was getting good at both.
Mhm.
Um, and I did quite well at rugby and things like that. But before those, like I was like a little chubby kind of kid. Like I didn't really do anything. And I think kayaking just unlocked that for me. And then from there, like I think when you start, I think, and maybe at a young age, you start to, I hope my future kids kind of get into a sport and take it, even if for a year, take it that seriously. Because you start to think about, because I was working with companies then, and then like, oh shit, like you need to do things for these companies at like 14 years old. And you're like, oh my God, like you start taking on different responsibilities. Um, but yeah, I think for me, like sport was definitely that outlet. It was the only thing I was good at. Like it
Mhm.
was the only A I got at school. um, so like it was the only thing where I was like, oh well, I'm good at this, so I'm just gonna do this because that's in a sense that's I was like that's all I have, if that makes sense.
With the making that decision between rugby and kayak, if you did that same scenario over and over, would you have done the same outcome? And or would there been that opportunity to go the route of rugby?
There was because my cousin now plays for England. so potentially, man. It's hard to know, isn't it? It's like saying like it's like, is it a regret? No,
Yeah.
because honestly, I had the most amazing 7, 8 years competing for Great Britain in kayaking. So it's like, and also in a sense, it sounds really bad, but like rugby's there's a more in demand. There was definitely better players than I was and things like that. I don't think I think kayaking, I had a bit of a talent to it. I think I just had this natural thing for it. For rugby, I think I would have had to bust my ass a lot harder. And at that age, would I have done it? I don't think so. So I don't think I would have gone as far in that sense.
What was the biggest thing kayaking taught you about yourself? Was there a certain skill that it brought out of you that you didn't know you had in you?
At the time, I probably didn't learn as much as I look back at it now. Definitely over the last year, I've looked back at it more. Um, but I think with kayaking, because it's a solo sport for us, like you go out as a team and you compete as a team, but you're on the water, you compete, you're against your teammates in a sense. And I think now it's like, I think, oh shit, like the things it's taught me, it's probably like no one's going to do anything for you.
Yeah.
Like no one's going to do anything for you. No one's going to pay your bills for you. No one's going to come and save you. Like nothing. So I think that's starting to hit me a lot more now that I'm going to get into like late 20s sort of thing. And even just, I think at a young age, just being disciplined. Like you need to be training at these times. You need to do X, Y, and Z. I think that was probably where my dedication started to build, and then transit going into kind of fitness and bodybuilding now. It's pretty simple, and I think that's from that upbringing in a sense.
You brought up such a great point with it's a solo sport. Like you can't say, oh, it's your fault that I didn't do anything because you're
Yeah,
the only one in that kayak. You're the only one that has control over it. And that same concept in a lot of other sports where it's solo is it's basically up to you on what that outcome is. And it kind of brings those skills of discipline and really how are you going to get across that finish line or how are you going to be able to get ready to compete. So it's one of those things that it really teaches you a lot when you don't even think about it, especially at a young age where a lot of times it's that participation trophy. When it comes to
yeah,
solo, it can be participation, but you want to win. Like you're not out there saying, well, I just made it. I mean, you did 8 years representing your country. So you want to represent at the highest level as you can.
yeah, 100%. I think that was the nice thing, like you said there, like the participation side of things. Like the nice thing is that if if you're not top three, if you don't stand on a podium, you might as well come last.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think that's one thing that I do struggle with society now, because obviously I have nephews and nieces now and things like that. And I'm like, the truth is, like, you shouldn't be rewarded for just participating. That's not how we should be raising next generations and things like that. And I think we could debate the whole educational system, both in the US probably and in the
Yeah.
Europe and just the world. But like, you shouldn't be rewarded for just showing up. Like, because for me, like, if I just show up on, like, for you, if you just show up, if you do, oh, I'm just going to stick the record button on, and you don't have the backdrop and you don't put the effort and energy into it, everything's going to be half-assed. So I'm like, what do you expect for other areas of your life? Even if you get into relationships and you start building your partners or whatever that is, I'm like, if you just go and I'm just participating, we're just together and I'm like, no, you have to make an effort and you have to work hard at something. Otherwise, yeah, don't deserve to be where you want to be. I think that's the nice thing that it teaches you, I guess.
100% agree. Did you ever feel pressure with representing your country in that kind of level?
Not really the country side of things myself. Yeah, 100%. There was moments where I was like, I could name probably every week there was a moment, and every year I definitely had, there was one world championships where I was like the name in a sense. There was a few of us that were like the names, like, and I didn't even make it past quarterfinals. So it's like the self pressure more than anything, and holding yourself to such a high standards that actually you just don't love and you don't enjoy the thing that you started. And I do that to this day now. Like even training for me the last couple of weeks, there's been some barriers and stuff like that. And I can't stand the fact that I can't progress. And then being an arsehole to myself. And I'm like, it's okay. Like a couple of weeks will not kill you. You're going to be doing this for the next 10, 15 years of your life. So what's 2 weeks? It's like getting ill. So it's more so the self-pressure. I always found it amazing to be part of your country in a sense is insane. And I think most athletes would say they don't really, not that they don't care, but it's like, it kind of goes bigger than that. You're like, it's your reputation, it's yourself and things like that. Like, again, like your country doesn't do anything for you. Like you represent them. They're not there to save you, sort of thing. So it's all on your own shoulders, and you have to learn to deal with those pressures. I think it's the hardest thing.
Was there a race competition moment from your career as a kayaker that is still stays in your mind at all times? A moment that's very valuable for you?
It's a good question. I probably had two. You made me think about it now. Probably the first one was when I was young and when I first made the reserve team. Because I kind of just went in not expecting anything. My coach was like, hey, you can do this. Like, just go in and just wing it. And I ended up like actually doing quite well. And that was the moment where I was like, I think that was the moment where you finally think you're good at something. And you're like, you get that confirmation to be like, oh, okay. Like I needed that to keep pushing me forward now. So that was definitely one. That was probably like 12 or 13 years old. And then honestly, probably the other one was actually, I was in Canada. It was a North American Cup. And again, just, I think I was the only European there. So it's just Americans and Canadians and things like that. They literally live and breathe right at this spot. Like they wake up, go to school, come back to it sort of thing. And then I had to travel across the world to it sort of thing. And then I ended up coming third, and I was like, holy shit, like I deserve, especially in like, you probably know it from obviously the US and things like that, like the sporting mecca of everything. If you look at the Olympics, the US do extremely well. So like the fact that you can kind of go to those places and sometimes just hold your own ground and be like, oh, okay, like that's pretty impressive. So those two are probably the biggest ones for me.
Is there an opportunity that you didn't get that you kind of wish you had that opportunity to do with kayaking?
I wish again, it's like saying like, I wish I had the mindset I do now when I was like 16, it'd be great.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I would have took a lot more. I would have said, fuck it a lot more, if I'm honest. I would have just done so many different things. I think at a young age, you care what people think and you care about, and the truth is no one cares. So like, I wish I just went in there with the no one cares attitude, just do it, just show up. And I think that would have took a lot of pressure and I would have achieved potentially more. And yeah, I potentially I could have excelled even more so. Do you know what I mean? I think just having that mindset would have changed a lot of things.
It's always interesting to look back at those times where you kind of like reflect and you're like, in that moment, you probably thought that is what I needed to do. I think it couldn't go anything differently. And now you're like, okay, well, I could have analyzed this situation better. And it's like, it's one of those what if situations because you can't roll back time. But you take that learning opportunity, like you mentioned, not caring what people think, and you can incorporate that into where you are today. Because I had that same challenge where I cared a lot about what people think when I was younger. Now it's like, I'm going to be who I am. And if people like it, cool. If they don't like it, they don't have to listen to me or look at whatever I post online. It's my decision to make. So you brought up a great point with looking back at that, because I think a lot of people listening will have that same reflection on, well, I could have done it that way, but now I incorporate that to where I am today.
Yeah, 100%, man. And like you say, like I always think that, especially with like the world that we live in now, podcasts, social media, YouTubes, and things like that. I almost embrace like if people say this is shit or your shit or like you get snaky comments, I'm like, good. That means I'm making it. It means that I'm pissing people off that are actually following me because I pissed them off, sort of thing. So no, it's amazing, and it's just like again, like it's just there's certain points in your life, and definitely like you've probably experienced it. Just life teaches you so much. You'll go through really hard times, and those hard times are so valuable.
Yeah.
And definitely now, like the last kind of this year has been a roller coaster, I think, for a lot of people. Like every year could be, but this year I've definitely found more challenging from my mindset and I guess mental fitness. But you know what? Like I've never felt more just like fuck you attitude to everything. So I'm just excited to take this year and put it into all my years in the future. Yeah.
You mentioned throughout the interview, health and fitness has been a huge part of your life. When was the first moment that it really kind of took a big forward step in that direction? You talked about bodybuilding. Was that always something that you wanted to do kind of later near the end of your kayaking career?
Nah, not at all. I had no like I kind of when I competed as a senior in kayaking for maybe 2 years, so like 18 to 20. But in those 2 years, it's kind of like you're trying to sort your life out, aren't you, at 18 and 20? Like you finish school, you go into university and things like that. You're like, right, I need to get my life together and decide what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. And I just went through a couple of years where I was just limboed. I was kayaking still, but then I was like, well, I need to earn more money so that I can like kayaking was in a sense kind of free, like all your equipment and things like that, but you still have to pay to travel around the world and things like that. You don't get given everything. Um, so I was like, well, how can I do this? And I actually worked with a supplement company at the time through my kayaking. And they were like, hey, just come do a photo shoot. We need to update website stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. And I went to this photo shoot and there was these guys and girls and they're all absolutely killer shape, like absolutely shredded, like abs, and these glutes, these women have big fucking bums. And I was like, how do you now what do you guys do? And they were like, oh, like we're personal trainers and things like that. And I was like, oh, okay. So you get paid to like train people. And I was like, I'm gonna do that because then I can earn money and still train and then still do my kayaking.
Yeah.
And then honestly, from there, it just transitioned over probably another year. I just naturally just kayaking kind of drifted into the background. Then I started, in a sense, kind of bodybuilding lifestyle. I started training like that and got into kind of the competitive side of that. And that's it, man. And then we'll sit here 7 years later. So
With being a personal trainer, what was the challenging part getting that going? Because a lot of time, were you working at a gym where you were just helping anyone, or did you have to really find the clients to work with? And that kind of brought a new like sales persona out of you.
yeah, so there's kind of two options with like when you first start out in the fitness industry. You can go fully self-employed straight away. Or you can kind of go work for a gym and they'll potentially like they'll give you leads, they'll give you clients and things like that, and they'll take a percentage of your hourly coaching with them and things like that. And you can build up a client base that way and then do whatever you want to do from there. I actually had an interview to do exactly that. So I had an interview to join a gym and they actually never got back to me. So I was just like, oh, okay. And I kind of just wanted to jump into it. So there was a brand new gym that was opening up in the local area. It was self-employed, so you were self-employed technically, but you didn't have to pay rent. You didn't have to pay gym rent. So you did 15 hours of working for them. So you taught classes or cleaned machinery in a sense. And that paid for your gym rent. And obviously it was a way for you to network with people, meet potential clients. And that's what I did. So yeah, like I just jumped in the deep end being self-employed. Somehow it worked. I wish, like, when people like you get all these things like Q&As for like millionaires and how did you build your business? What's the most? I'm like, fuck knows, man. Like you just throw shit at the wall and hope it sticks. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I think all you have to do is just talk to people like they're a human being and just be like, you have to resonate with their struggles. Like, okay, you're struggling to build muscle, you're struggling to drop body fat, you're struggling with your sleep. Okay, so tell me, like, what's your life like? And you're like, well, I'll try this. And if you tell someone to try this for free, and then they're like, oh, it worked. And then like, well, then they inquire and then they start to learn you. And then you start to build up a client base like that. Because I think now we're in an era like I don't know if real sales works, if that makes sense, because I think everyone knows how cold outreach is and all this sort of stuff. And so I think we kind of, people have clicked onto that. So I think now you just be yourself, build a personal brand, help people for free, and then cool. And then on a side, like if people want to pay to be in your environment, then yeah, you can work with me on that level. So yeah, I guess that's kind of, I guess that's the gist of it, really. Yeah, just jump in the deep end.
Well, nowadays it's like you see so many people on social media that say they're a coach and they may have like no background or anything. They just post what they normally do and say, "Oh, I know how to do everything correctly." And
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where people connect with people. Like if there's something that you mention that really connects with a person, they're more willing to kind of work with you and be a part of that business that you're doing or be a part of a client base for you. And I think it's so important nowadays where authenticity nowadays. And I think if you're going to be real about your struggles, especially with being a fitness coach, in my opinion, I'm going to connect more because I might have been similar in that struggle. And I know that, well, you battled through it. I know that I can battle through it if I had the guidance or something. I just view it that way because it's like everyone is saying that they're coaches nowadays. And I think that's a problem also.
Man, like I think because I've only just started doing it, I'm helping other fitness coaches build their businesses and things like that. And I'm like, it took me 7 years to kind of feel like I've earned the right to do it. And even then, I'm like, I just give them ideas. I just tell them exactly kind of what I've done. And I'm like, right,
Yeah.
let's just put your personal twist onto it. And that's the same, honestly, like with like my coaching. I'm like, I'm not the best. There's people out there that can write better training programs for me, better biomechanics and all this sort of stuff. They have better nutrition knowledge, all this sort of stuff. But the truth is like, I'm always simple works. It's really like simple stuff works. You just have to get good at simple. But I'm very good at, I think, just being a human being and relating. I think that's the nice thing of having like, I know I'm only 28, but I feel like I've experienced a lot of life through traveling the world, seeing different struggles in the world, experience different struggles. And even now, it's just like, I'm never going to, like, if I had to write you a diet or a training program and tell you to do X and Y and Z, I'm never going to give you something that I've not done myself. So
Exactly.
I'm like, yeah, this sucks, bro. I've done it. Sort of thing.
You've gone through it. And I think that what makes it better is you're not telling people to do something that you haven't put yourself through. And I think that's so important. With bodybuilding, a lot of times there's that negative aspect of people put their bodies to the limit and they kind of go extreme. Did that ever happen to you where you kind of were going really hard at the gym, fitness programs, diet, things like that, that it kind of took a wear and tear on you? Or did you do it in a healthy way where you weren't seeing those kind of results?
I think if you ask anyone that takes anything to a high level, so if that's business, if you ask, I don't know, Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, I'm like, oh, did you do it in a healthy manner? They'll be like, fuck no. Like they'll work, they won't sleep for weeks. They won't, everything like that. I think there is time periods. This is when like everyone wants, I think this is like a thing right now. Everyone wants balance. Everyone wants this thing called balance. I want a balanced life. I want to train. I want to be able to see my friends and things like that. The truth is you can't have balance until you're unbalanced.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to know, like, for example, like if you are prepping for a bodybuilding show, so if you're like, right, I need to drop loads of body fat and we need to bring a condition that's unhealthy. That's it. Like you can't live like that. So you literally look like that for about 1 minute on that stage for that second. You cannot maintain that because you would die. Like it's unhealthy. So the idea is like, yeah, for this next 20 weeks, whatever it is, you need to have no balance and you need to go all in. And I guess you said, people say, there's that quote, isn't there? Like, just go all in, put your head down for 6 months, go all in, and you'll be in a better position as you are now. It's exactly the same. And like right now, yeah, 100%. Like you can live this balance, but you just have to go, you have to push and pull, and know when to push, when to pull. But that comes from experience. And I know a lot of athletes in my life, and I'll tell you what, you have to break bones and you have to pull muscles and you have to push your body to a limit to earn the right to be where you want to be. So healthy, Yes, but not all the time.
Do you prefer that style of workout through going for a competition, or do you like it from a coaching kind of side where you're not going that hard?
My training is everything to me. So my training keeps my own self-development because I love coaching and I love my business, but I wouldn't get fulfillment if I just did that. I need to work on my own personal goals, my own self-development. So my training, I'll always train balls to the wall, like 5 days a week. If I can do one more rep, it will be done. I will leave and not be able to walk. That's fine with me. So I'm okay with that. Like that's just, I think that's just a DNA thing. I think that's just a mindset thing. Maybe over years from kayaking, building that discipline and knowing that people always go, oh, it's all about working hard. I'm like, it is, but people are out there working harder than you. So in my head, I'm like, I need to try and match that. Whoever's working hardest, I got to try and stay to that level to be, I guess, to live the future that I want. Because when I get to 40, I don't want to be doing this. No, I don't want to be pushing my body to these limits. But I know if I do push my body to these limits for the next 5-10 years, I will have another amazing 40 years where I can pull back.
I kind of asked earlier with the kayaking, what did that kind of teach you about yourself? With health and fitness, have you learned anything new about yourself when it comes to that? Is there
Oh,
something
man.
that it's
Yeah.
taught you?
Every day, man. Every day is like, every day you're learning something, whether that's physical, mental, and things like that. Like I've gone through the difference, I think the difference with bodybuilding and kayaking is that, or a lot of sports that bodybuilding isn't, I don't know, like NFL, basketball, right? They have a time period where they don't play and they don't train.
Yeah.
Because they rest their bodies, they chill, they go away on holidays. Bodybuilding, you can't actually do that. Like it's literally, it's a 24/7 job because everything revolves around your food, everything revolves around everything you do. And that's the thing that I noticed from kayaking. Kayaking was kind of more skill based. Like, yeah, you had to be very fit and you had to train, but you could have a beer and you could do these sort of things, right? But bodybuilding, you kind of can't do that. It is a 24/7 job, your sleep management and things like that, because everything revolves around the physical appearance of the body. So you need to do everything to make that physical appearance and performance the best it can be. And I completely forgot your question.
It's taught you anything about yourself, anything new?
Okay, yeah. So I guess it just, man, I've gone through the most. It teaches you mindset. It teaches you everything to do because like it truly like you learn. I guess if you had to compound it, you just learn to be so resilient in what you do. Like when it sucks, you do it. When you don't want to do it, like you show up. When it hurts, you do more. And I think that those sort of hardship lessons you can translate into all areas of your life. Like it's a bit like if you have an argument with your partner or if you have big issues with your relationship, like the easiest way to be is like, oh, we'll break up and we'll just split up. But the truth is, it's like that's what you have to do. Like, right, we're going through hardship now. We have to push through it and work through it. How do we overcome this? Because everyone's like, oh, relationship and things like that should be easy. You should be just like relationships and love is fucking hard work.
Yeah.
Like you have to put energy into loving your partner how they want to be loved. You have to be very self-aware of their needs, their wants, and things like that. So exactly the same. Like I think sport and bodybuilding teaches you exactly that as well.
I think everyone wish it was easy. Snap of the fingers, it's all done, but that's not how life works, unfortunately.
No, and I think that's the same thing with obviously like Western world. I think we like definitely my generation, I think, like maybe even earlier now, it's just entitlement. People are like, oh, I
Yeah.
worked hard, I ate a good meal, and I'm like, when do I see results? And when do I earn £1 million or $1 million, whatever it is? And I'm like, yeah, do this for like 6 years, bro. like the truth is that no one just wants to put in the hard work for a long period of time.
Yeah. Did this journey that you've been on with your career ever take a effect with your personal life? Were you able to balance that out, where you're able to still enjoy what you like to do, travel or hang out with people, but still have that fun professional life?
I'd love to sit here and say yes, I would. There's moments like, so I think the relationships, I've been with my partner a couple of years now, and that's been before that, no. I was very like, so that would have been like 5, 6 years. That was just head down, be just go, just go. And I didn't. I don't have any relationships from old school friends, anything like that anymore. All my friends now are other coaches or other athletes. And obviously like, you know, family and stuff like that. But otherwise I don't really have because I can't relate to other people now. I struggle to relate to other people. So now like having my partner and having an athlete and other coaches that hold themselves to high standards, now we do have that balance a little bit more now. So like on Friday evenings, Saturday afternoons, we unwind a little bit more from work and training and things like that. And we take Sundays and we go do something and stuff. But that's kind of it. And I hold that mindset until I don't know if I think I might always have that. I might until I have kids and things like that. It might be different in my life. But right now I have things to achieve, and there's certain things I just can't do. Do you know what I mean? I can't go out for an afternoon with people that don't bring value to my life, that just want to go and drink and do all these sorts of things. I can't do that because I have a lot of clients to look after, their needs, and I have shit that I've got to do. And again, holding myself to high standards, I guess.
You talked about relatability, and I think sometimes people, especially I think for me, it's like I don't talk to anyone from high school because
Yeah.
go to college and then you're with those people in college 24/7 living with them. And
Yeah.
it's hard even with some of those relationships because you're at different points of your lives. With the relatability with other coaches, is it because it's focusing on the goal aspect, like their goals are similar to yours and what you both are wanting to achieve, that's where the relatability is with like having them as friends or even acquaintances in a way? It's more on you guys are trying to achieve the same outcome, and that is what it's exciting to be a part of their lives also.
Yeah, 100%. And I think a lot of it is just to feel like it, to be under not to I don't mind not being understood. That's okay. But sometimes it's just nice to know that I'm not alone. Like because when you get entrepreneurial people, when you get athletes, you are the 2%, the 5%. So sometimes you feel very isolated. And you feel very lonely at times. And you look at, I don't know, you'll scroll through social media or you go through Facebook and you're like, oh, they've gone out on a Friday. Should I be doing that? Like, I'm 28 years old. Like, should I be living my life? And should I be like doing these things? And so when you talk to other people, you're like, okay, I'm not the fucking weirdo. Like, thank God, like I'm not the broken one here. So a lot of it is like, and honestly, it's the same reason I have a coach. Like I've had a coach obviously from kayaking all the way to this day that looks after my nutrition and training. Because truthfully, like I can do my own training, I can do my own nutrition. Number one, I don't want to worry about it. And you tell me what to do, I'll execute on it. But truly, it's someone that understands. So I can be like, bro, I'm struggling a bit today, feeling a bit fatigued. He's like, cool, like stop, like don't do this, do this. And like I just need that reassurance a lot of time. And I guess it's the same when it comes to friendships and those relationships.
Transitioning into a fun conversation, it can be fun. Content creation is something that you are passionate about, from what I've seen, is where you like to showcase the progress of clients or people you've worked with, but also really educate and teach from your own experience. What gets you excited about making a post and really sharing your experiences, your education, the things that you do with traveling, moving, and things like that?
Yeah, I think like I enjoy it. I think again that was probably stem like when I was kayaking, we always had to produce videos for sponsors and things like that. So I kind of got used to kind of the editing and things like that. And I actually really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed kind of making videos and things like that. And I guess that skills worked well when your job's social media, technically. But yeah, I find it really interesting. I do find business and I find marketing really interesting now. Like I study it a lot more now. But I think for like it all comes down to like I wish like people when I started were telling me these things, I guess. Like because like the truth I like talking about training and nutrition, it's cool and everything, but it's kind of out there. Like you can literally Google and YouTube like everything. How to be a millionaire, how to build 50 pounds of muscle, like all this sort of stuff. It's already out there. So I'm not going to tell you anything that's new. I'm going to tell you just things that like how I would approach it and my experiences and what I've done with my clients and things like that to do it. Because I think, again, people can relate. People are like, oh, like that's not too rocket science, and shit, I don't have to do keto, and I don't have to do intermittent fasting, and I don't have to train 7 days a week for 6 hours, sort of thing. So you're like, no, you don't have to do much, man. You just have to do it for a long period of time, sort of thing. So I guess I kind of just enjoy. Do you know what? I enjoy documenting, and I've been really slack on it, even with my own podcast and own YouTube. The last couple of weeks have been really slack. So as of Monday, 100%, that's it. It's a video and a podcast every week. So we'll do the switch. I'll get you on mine as well, man. But yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing. Like, I just like documenting, to be honest. I like just showing the world what I do, and I wear my heart on my sleeve. So I don't give a fuck if what I post, really.
Is there anything that maybe a comment that someone said that was very not memorable, but very positive for you in this journey that you've been on? Something that someone said or that was like resonates with you?
Um, you get lots of, I guess maybe not so much comments. You get lots of DMs saying that I can relate to this. Thank you for sharing, like all those all the time. I think the biggest ones actually just come from your clients every day.
Mm-hmm.
Not even every day, but like they might just say like, it sounds really silly, but like if you ask for a referral or you ask for a testimonial and things like that, I've done that obviously over the years. Like, I always ask clients for like, hey, can you just film a little video just so I can use it as testimonials and things like that to help myself and the brand. And you get so shocked at what they say, and you're like, holy shit, like I've done that to your life. And obviously I've worked with thousands now of men and women all over the world now, and it's like, it's the impact that you make on their mindset and their life. Like, it's like, it sounds really harsh, but like I had one lady that got a divorce because like she was just like, I'm so unhappy. And I was like, I told her to get a divorce, but I'm like, what she learned and things like that over the way, realized, well, this isn't my person. It's not that they're a bad person, but we're just not compatible anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And loads of these things, like, again, like people have lost over like 100 pounds and things like that, and they just feel like, man, I can't even imagine what it feels like to lose, like the mindset of being 100 pounds heavier, and then going that you have abs and you can keep that all year round, that you can just take your top off and feel amazing. I can't even fathom how that would feel. And just completely 180ing your life must be insane. So I think it's just those little messages or comments you get from them, like, oh, like, thank you for just being in my life. And you're like, cool, my day's good.
When you get those like DMs, does it make you feel like I'm proud of what I'm able to do? This is kind of the road that I was dreaming of living and being able to help people and accomplishing their own goals. Kind of really shows that you were meant to do this in a way.
Yeah, 100%. There's always that, I guess, that endorphin hit, right? You feel amazing for doing it, but it's weird because sometimes you feel like an imposter as well,
Yeah.
because like you're like, oh, like me, because you're like, I'm just this. I think there's always this point where you put yourself. I was in my head, I'm always this insecure, dyslexic, dumb kid. Like, I'm always that person. So you're like, really, like me, like, and then you're like, okay, like, fuck, like, okay. But I also think that's the thing that grounds you as well, and it doesn't let your ego run away with you. And I think it's the key thing that keeps you relatable, because you still just think you're this, I don't know, this little kid sort of thing. But yeah, it's just I don't think that'll ever go either, and I'm kind of glad it doesn't, because I just listen to it differently now.
For people that are listening to this on the audio, you're not going to see Brandon from that. But if you're watching this, I want to talk about creativity with what we can see with your tattoos. Because if anyone goes to your social media, they'll see them all. What got you wanting to have all this creative art on you? I call it creative art because I have one, and I feel it kind of represents who you are from a personality. There's certain
Yeah.
hidden messages when it comes to them, unless you just got them and it doesn't have a message. But talk about, when was that first one? What's your favorite piece that you have on you?
Do you know what's funny? Again, I've done a lot of reflecting this year, and I always wondered, like, I got my first one when I was like 17, maybe. I actually asked my mum to come with me. She did. I can't believe my mum did that. It's just like, you're not even 18, like, come with me. She actually did. So I thought that was pretty fucking cool. But do you know what? I think my first few tattoos and things like that, if I look back and I assess, I was definitely trying to hide behind them.
Okay.
Um, So I definitely think it was a thing to be like, don't look at me, just look at this sort of thing. And I felt very insecure. So I started getting some tattoos, things that I liked. So I think like that's where it stemmed from. And then it probably still has that thing. So now it's like, it's still like my way of, I don't know, saying that I'm not confident still. Do you know what I mean? It sounds really weird, but it's my way of saying like, hey, the more ink I get, it's the more stories and it's the more insecurities and it's the more powerful that I feel, whatever it is. But I don't know, a favorite piece. I got to the point where I did just kind of look online and I was like, hey, can we do this? This is sick. But I think my favorite pieces are just really simple ones. Like I've got like my mum's numerals here for her year of birth. And then I think I've got her, I can't even see it, like her date and month there. Just really simple ones that are really corny, but mean a lot. And I think I got like, my second one was like free. So I got free under there. And I got some random ones on my neck and stuff like that now, but just little quotes and stuff like that I live by. Like I got like 1%. Again, like my podcast is called that. Like, it's kind of the morals of my life. And I'm just like, all right, just keep going 1%, just one step forward every day. Just keep moving forward. So little ones like that, I guess.
Especially with tattoos, they're permanent. So you have that 1%, which it represents you as a brand, but also means more than what your podcast means. That kind of represents, and even the word free, that has more of a meaning. And you see it and you kind of look at it and you're like, wow, like there's more to that. Is there a piece that you're wanting that next? Is there another tattoo on the horizon? We're gonna come back to this interview years later and be like, did you get that tattoo yet?
And then you're just covered.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I definitely do. I think obviously with bodybuilding, like there's parts that you don't want to hide as much. And you have to be really careful, kind of not careful, but like I don't think it matters. But I think if you've got certain areas, it would take away from muscle definition.
Yeah.
So I don't really want to do the areas that I do want to do until that's kind of over with now. So like I don't have any desire to kind of go do full sleeve sort of thing. I quite like seeing I like skin still. I like seeing skin and things like that. But I do eventually want to kind of get all the back of my head, kind of my neck all done and stuff like that. So it kind of all blends into here. I think I'd get my whole leg done when I'm kind of done bodybuilding. But I don't know what they would be. I think they would just be the kind of the things that I've got already, but just, yeah, a bit more spiced up. Yeah.
When you're not working, what do you like to do for fun? And don't say working out, because that's what you do for your career. What besides working out, what do you like to do?
Truthfully, I don't really have like a hobby in a sense, and I do want to get one. It sounds really cliche, but like when I guess so, like we said, like bodybuilding is 24/7. So when you don't do anything, you actually just think about resting and recovering as much as possible. So obviously, because like I live in Dubai and things like that, so it's nice doing just things like you go to like a shisha bar and you sit by like you just kind of chill out with some friends and things like that, like really corny things. Like me and my partner, we love to eat. She's a big foodie, so we like eating a lot and we like experimenting with different foods. We're coffee snobs, so we do like to go try different kind of like fancy little coffee shops and like little bakeries and things like that. Obviously if we're not harsh dieting and stuff. So yeah, little things like that, man. I'm just all about the little things, and it's even nice just obviously Dubai is nice, but it's not the same as kind of Australia here. Like the beaches here are pretty phenomenal. So like just going on like long beach walks with my partner's got her little dog here and stuff as well. So it's nice just doing things like that. But yeah, honestly, man, like it's like, you know, when you're like your parents always say, look at this amazing sunset or sunrise. And you're like, when you're a kid, you're like, yeah, so like, but now when you get older, you love these things. Like, and you're like, I just appreciate the little things. Or even if it's just like, we go home shopping and you're buying a new plant and you're buying a new duvet set or something like that. Like, I just like the little things now. So I guess that's what I would do as like pastime sort of stuff. Yeah.
You said your partner is a foodie. Do you guys cook together? Or
so she's actually we do the same job. So she's another online coach. We literally do exactly the same job. So she's actually, I'm like an amateur competitor. I'm not a professional in a sense with but she's a professional bikini athlete. So she's at a much higher level and things like that as well. But yeah, do you know what? We don't actually cook together because we both have separate meal kind of plans and things like that. We eat this together at the same sort of times and things like that. But I normally cook up actually most of her meals for the day because I'm up earlier. So I'll cook up most of her meals for the day, and yeah, we just eat together really. But then we're like, we'll go on date nights and things like that every week, and we do little date things where we obviously share and eat a lot of food together.
You just mentioned that living in Dubai and Australia, was that a goal of yours to live in those places, or the opportunity happened and you got?
Yeah, man, I think just like if people go like, oh, where do you want to be in 5 years? I'm like, bro, I don't know, because the last 5 years I didn't plan on any of this. So, no, Dubai was definitely one of those things where it was obviously like, I don't know, like it was the pandemic years, right? And there's, I don't know about the US, but the UK, we had little random lockdowns, like lockdown, then little gap, and lockdown, and all this. So you just like, it got to the point where I was like, you know, fuck this. Like, this is when the Dubai hype was kicking off. I knew a lot of other coaches were going out there because gyms were open. It was like one of the only places there, Florida and Texas. Like, they were the only places where things were open, kind of. So I was like, right, let's just go there for 3 weeks, come back. And honestly, man, I struggled with insomnia for a long time. So I struggled kind of with my mindset for a long time. So I had insomnia for like a year, and I went to Dubai and I slept. I slept for 3 weeks, and I just slept every night for 7-8 hours. And I was like, I'm going to move. Like that was it. That was the defining factor of me packing up my bags and moving. So yeah, literally I went there in the November of, I don't know, 2020 or something like that. And yeah, man, in the January I moved. That was it. So just packed up my bags in a month, got rid of an apartment in London, gave all my stuff to my sister, and that's it, just went. And then 10 months later, my partner actually moved there as well from Australia. So she moved there. She had a job opportunity there, and moved there, and that's how we met. And that was it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
You didn't go to Dubai. Who knows where your life would have been?
that's it, man. It's the same thing. Rugby or kayaking, who knows?
That's so true. The final question I'll ask you, for someone that's listening to this interview based on your journey and experience, what tips or advice would you give them to overcome obstacles, accomplish their goals, and rise to the challenge?
Good question, man. I think if anything, set high standards for yourself. Believe that you're enough, and you should it's just set high standards for yourself, whether that's coming from the person that you want to meet. Don't settle for less, things like that. Like, again, don't settle for less for your health, your career, things like that. Set yourself to a high standard, and honestly, just like get aggressive at just keep going. Just keep going. That's it. Like, when it sucks, keep going harder. When it sucks even more, keep going harder. Because honestly, if you just keep showing up, there will be light at the end of the tunnel, even if you can't see it right now.
Well, Brandon, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about your rise to the challenge. You're inspiring so many people, and we are excited to see what the future looks like for you.
I appreciate it, man. No, honestly, it's nice. It's nice to have good conversations. Again, we're like-minded people, man. I know what it's like when you run your own show and things like that. It's hard as well. It's definitely tricky. So no, I appreciate your time, buddy. Thank you.